here, welcome back to Gypsy Rose Papery. Today we are going to do a quick, hopefully easy tutorial on how I make my soft quilted covers. It's really super simple, but someone asked me, and so I do not mind showing you guys how I make stuff. So first, let's go through supplies. You're gonna need some fabric, cotton fabric, any fabric that you want really. A piece of cardstock. It doesn't have to be super sturdy. It could just be your basic piece of cardstock. You can use something a little bit thicker, but just know that the thicker card that you use, the sort of less pliable and quilt-like your journal cover is gonna be. So I use just your basic, I don't even know, I don't think this is 110. It might be a little less than 110 pound cardstock. So you don't have to use this kind of batting. I just like it because it comes in sheet form and then I can just cut to size. And I like the amount of cushiness, I guess is the scientific term, for the cover. So you can use other more quilty type, sort of polyfill type ones, or I wanted something a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit firmer, because when I sew around the cover, I really want the sewing detail to pop, and I felt like too squishy would kind of like sink in that sewing a little bit too far. This one, the sewing sinks in a little bit, but just enough where you can see it and it looks really pretty and adds a lot of detail to it. So this I got on Amazon, but they have the same exact one in any of your craft stores, and usually they have like really good sale on batting. So just a tidbit there. So it comes in a big old sheet, but we don't need a big old sheet. We just need enough for our cardstock. So I'm just going to kind of line it up with the corner here. It's okay if it's not perfectly the shape of your cardstock. You just want to sort of cut around it. Use it as a guideline rather. And you're probably not able to see what I'm doing down here yet because I'm probably out of frame, but basically I'm just cutting around this cardstock. I'm using the cardstock as a sort of template, very rough template for the amount of batting that I need. You could double up on it. Again, that will affect the squishiness factor of your cover. So once I am done, I like to put it back in my plastic, or any kind of pet hair gets in there, because for those of you that have pets, you know they like to get all up in here. So that is our square, and what I'll do next is add glue to your cardstock and glue that on. And I mean, there really isn't any kind of specific way I'll glue. I just obviously want to do the edges. So the edges, obviously. And then the middle. And like, you don't have to like put a exact, like perfect amount of glue. There really isn't any kind of exact measurement or kind of way to glue. You just add glue, because remember, we're gonna sew everything together. So even if there's spots where maybe it's not completely attached to the batting, it'll be fine, because the end result will be where it's all together as one, all three pieces. So just continuing to add, obviously, as much glue as you think you'll need. I would say more or less a somewhat even amount around the entire cardstock. And then you want to sort of line it up so that the cardstock is like right in the middle of it all. And so you'll want to see peek through on all 4 sides, because then we will sort of even it out. So for example, see how here there's some peek through? That's okay, you'll want some, because when you fold over the fabric, it's going to help cover your edges. So you can sort of even it out, but keeping in mind that you still want a little bit of it to come through on each of the 4 sides to help sort of cushion that hard edge of the cardstock. There we go. So I think we have a good enough edge on all 4 sides. I'm just mitering the corners. You want to just cut just above the corner there, not right at the corner, but maybe like just a little teensy bit above. So that is the beginning of our cover. And so then you're going to want to choose your fabric. I'm making another bunny journal for a custom order, and so I'm going to use more of this bunny fabric. That would be a good sort of panel right here. So again, my way of doing this is just pick the panel that you want. I know, very advanced technology here. And then I'm just gonna hold it and then sort of flip it, holding it exactly where I had originally chosen. So kind of like that. And then obviously carefully turn it around so it doesn't move on me. I know some of you must be like cringing right now, like, are you for real? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So again, just going to cut around that piece more or less what I need. Obviously you need a nice border around this one because you're going to cover the edge completely. So we're going to go ahead and just cut all the way down, and then that extra piece down there I can use for some other projects, maybe some journaling cards that I'll be working on next. And then obviously here, let's see if we can move it a little bit over so it's even. Let's see. So just roughly map it. You could probably even just pinch it with maybe a binder clip, but I'm so used to doing this, I just use my hands. So that looks pretty good to me. So we're gonna mark it right there. Now what you can do is, hopefully you can see, you can sort of pinch the fabric with your nail just as a rough guideline. So when you're gluing back down, then you know where to glue. So that'll be our bottom guideline. And then here you can pinch. You can even use maybe a bone folder or your scissor, and you can pinch there, and then you know more or less that's where your guideline is going to be for when you glue. So the glue obviously is going to go on the batting side, and so this one is going to be sort of a pain in the butt because the glue kind of gets stuck to the batting and then little pieces of fuzz stick to your glue. My other word of advice when gluing the batting is keep your glue glopping to a minimum, because the glue will go through your fabric and then you'll have like hard spots, which is not a good look to me personally. It just ruins your cover, like the finished look of it. I'm just sort of tapping it quickly with the glue. And don't worry about adding too much glue because you're gonna sew. And so anywhere you see like there's too much glopping, You're just sort of gonna tap it with your finger. Okay, and then we're going to lay this back down using our little guideline that we made. So like right about there. And then you want to turn it around quickly because you want to kind of smooth out any wrinkles in your fabric. Okay. And this is a good time too, if you're feeling any of the glue, I showed this in my hardcover tutorial, but if you're feeling any of the glue come through anywhere, quickly just start rubbing it with your finger, and you can kind of rub it out, but it's only when it's still wet. When you've let it dry on there, there really is nothing you can do except hide it with something. You can kind of put, I don't know, a piece of trim or something over it. Hopefully it's not anywhere like in the middle. But I just keep rubbing it until I feel like it's pretty well adhered, which it looks like it is. And if it's too floppy, like this seems sort of very floppy, no big deal, because we are going to, once we finish gluing in the edges, you're going to add another layer of cardstock on the inside for the inside cover. So now, again, you want like an even amount. Over here, it's kind of thick for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut a little bit off. So obviously, again, we want to miter those corners. Use the batting this time because that's sticking out as your guide for the mitering on the fabric. I would say leave a little bit more when you miter the fabric, probably like a 1/4 of an inch from the batting to accommodate that bulk, because we're going to have to sort of have enough fabric to go over the batting and then onto the actual cardstock like that. So I first will add glue when you're doing the batting, because you want to make sure that this, when you're gluing everything in, sort of like a gift. I think of it as a gift. You're wrapping a gift. You want glue right at the edge because you want this batting to fold over that hard edge onto the inside. So we'll start with that. We'll just put a nice big line of glue. This one doesn't matter if you glop, obviously, because it's gonna be all covered. So like this. And then the other thing I like to do is make sure I put glue on the edges, so a little bit of extra glue to help with that nice neat corner. And then I'm putting glue on the batting itself, and then I like to glue the fabric. I feel like it goes on neater when you put the glue on the fabric than when you do on the actual cardstock, and that way you know how much glue you need, as opposed to kind of second guessing or guesstimating where the fabric is going to end. So then hopefully you can see, but I just take the fabric tautly and start at one edge and then work my way down. Okay, and I press down, and then your edges, you're going to want to really make sure they adhere down. Okay, so already we have a nice clean edge. And then on here, so that your edges are very nice and clean, whoops, you want to add a little bit of glue inside the corner that you're going to glue over next. So same thing, we're going to add one line of glue on the edge, on the batting, and then using the fabric as our guide, we're going to add the glue on the fabric. Okay. And so here you want to pinch that edge closed. So you're gonna pinch it closed because we're gonna add glue on top once that is pinched closed. And same thing, we are going to lift and pinch. And you can start at one corner, you can start in the middle, wherever you're most comfortable. I like to start in the middle when I'm trying to get an edge clean, because I want that lined up before I go ahead and line up my corner. So just press down and then make sure you pinch. And you're gonna see that you'll have this. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that at the end. But make sure it's just nice and dry before we try anything with this. So we'll leave it be and we're gonna move on. So again, I have some extra gloppiness on here. So one more time. Once you've pinched the edge, you're gonna put glue in between where the fabric folds into each other. So in there, and you're gonna wanna press that down and join or glue those two pieces of fabric together right there at that corner. And then you're gonna glue in the next side. So again, you're gonna glue the cardstock, a nice amount of glue, the batting. I keep saying felt. I guess because you could use felt as well. If you didn't have batting, you could probably use felt. It'll just be a little bit stiffer, probably. So again, putting glue on the fabric and making sure I put glue on the edge, on the corner rather. And I'm gonna start in the middle because I've already done two sides. And I'm gonna press and push. So fold over, press and push on all your sides. And then finally at the corner, press and push. Okay. So we are looking really cute. Look how cute that is already. And we have a nice clean edge on all three sides so far. And just make sure, and then again we're gonna put glue inside the little corner there to adhere the two pieces of fabric together like that. Hopefully I'm in frame, you guys won't hate me. And then I'm doing my line of glue all the way down, and obviously the paper ends there, but I'm going to pretend that it ends down there because I'll want a line of glue there too. And on this corner we didn't add that glue either inside this corner, so we're going to do that. We should have done that before, but it's okay. We caught it, so that's what's important. Wherever two pieces of fabric meet, just know that you're going to want to adhere them together to make them one, so that nothing separates on you when you are finally folding over the rest of this fabric onto the inside of the cover. And I hope I'm making sense, but if I'm not, then please just ask me questions down in the comments. I will try to clarify any questions. So this is our final piece of fabric. Again, we're gonna fold over, press and push, fold over, press and push, and working our way to the corners. Okay. All right, so there we go. We have a nice clean edges on all sides. Obviously we have like little pieces of the corners that are sticking out, but we're gonna wait till it's nice and dry to do that. So for now, just keep sort of smoothing out if you need to. If you feel like you are at a place where you are satisfied with what you're seeing, then just put it to the side, let it dry. I'm gonna go ahead and get the inside paper for this, and you go ahead and do the same, and then we will come right back and finish this up. Okay, so I have my paper here, and it's the same size obviously as the cardstock. So before we glue that, obviously we're going to want to clean up our corners. The other thing that I meant to mention is you may run into some need for troubleshooting, especially if you cut the corner fabric really short. So when you try to fold it over, it's going to start fraying. Never fear. You're going to take a little bit of glue on your finger and sort of mold it. Put it on the corner that's fraying and mold it back into place and kind of pinch and hold, and you can reshape it back into a corner. It's happened to me. It's a common problem. So don't stress out. Don't think it's ruined. There's always a fix. So here you want to be super careful. You don't want to cut. Let me get closer to this camera. Sorry for the noise. Let's use a bigger corner. So for example, this. You don't want to cut straight like this, right? Because if you do that, you're going to cut into the fabric on the corner. You want to sort of angle inwards. Okay, so stay away from that corner. Hope you can see. So stay away from that corner, but sort of cut in like that. So you can pull it down a little bit if you feel like you don't trust yourself. Basically stay away from the corner and cut inwards, and you can fix it with the corner of your scissors if you need to. I am so sorry for that noise. And here you're going to do it outwards, right? Because obviously we can't cut like this because I'm right-handed. But when you get to these types, and obviously if you're left-handed, reverse that, you're going to cut in where the most of the sticking out of the fabric is, and cut outwards away from your corner. Okay, so you're gonna cut away from that corner. So now look how nice and neat our little cover is, with nice crisp corners. And again, if you're afraid of fraying, which I just do this as a just as a backup to make sure these edges don't fray, you can use a little bit of glue and rub it on your corners. So just rub it on your corners to keep it from fraying. Of course, my glue never works when I want it to, but just sort of rub it. And there you go. So we have basically our covers done. We just need the inside, and then we need to sew. So when you're cutting the inside of the cover, obviously you want to leave a border so some of the fabric peeks out. I leave probably like a 1/4 inch border on both sides, and I think the green is probably my favorite here. I think it goes the best with this. Oh, this is kind of cute too. Let's see. Oh, I think I like this one better. So I'm gonna leave a 1/4 inch border all around. So basically just cut 1/2 inch from one, cut 1/2 inch from both sides would probably be the best thing. And so this is the only time you'll probably see me measuring. So we're gonna cut this at 10.5 because it's 11. And then we're gonna cut this at 8 because it's 8.5. Okay. And so now you have enough for your fabric to sort of peek through on both sides. So on this one, you're going to want to get a really good coverage on the corners, or rather the outside perimeter of your paper, because you don't want it sort of popping off. So really take your time with just getting a nice thick layer of glue towards the outer edges of your cardstock. And then on the inside, don't be afraid to use tons of glue. Remember, you're going to be opening and closing this book, or whoever you're making this for is going to be opening and closing this book, so don't skimp on the FABRITAAAAC. Like, you know, drown the paper in FABRITAAAAC if you have to, because you want to make sure that that cover or inside cover goes nowhere. We know that the outside cover is not going to go anywhere because we're going to sew. What you can also do before you do this is, if you want a sewing detail, like a perfect sewing detail on the inside, and you wanted to add intricate patterns on the outside, you would just do like a faux sewing. So you would sew around the perimeter of your inside cover, then do the sewing separate for your outside cover, and then just glue this on after you've done all that. But we're gonna make a nice, easy, simple tutorial today. So we're not gonna get into all that sewing. I mean, I'm sure you guys know by now, my sewing, there really isn't a technique to it. I'm kind of like in a trance when I sew, and it's like just whatever feels good, I go for it. So if your paper has a pattern or a certain kind of way you should be laying, make sure you're not putting your paper upside down. This one doesn't matter. And then just more or less eyeball what's even and what's straight. That looks about right. And then you're gonna massage all the edges, make sure those are nice and adhered. You could use a bone folder if that's your thing. You can now use the bone folder. I just use my hands because I can never find my bone folder. I know I have one, no clue where it is. Okay. And so you could have distressed this paper also before gluing it down. This is a nice bright journal, so I'm not going to like grunge it up with anything. So once you feel the cover is more or less adhered, I like to start shaping the journal into book form, because if I wait till it's dry, you're going to have gaps, and it's harder to get those gaps to stay down once the glue's dry. So you want the glue to be somewhat still wet. And I just quickly and sort of evenly pair up the corners, and then just start softly squeezing towards the inside. And I do that, but I don't crease, I just round it. And that way you can sort of make sure if there's any gaps in the middle that are curling up, you can get that. Now's the time to sort of smooth those out. But see, it's looking pretty good here. So get as close to the middle or as the spine as you can without actually, you know, making a V. And then I just like to mold it so that it's gonna be like a nice soft rounded corner. So that is our cover, and obviously now you would do whatever sewing you'd like. You could do just sewing around the edges. You could do decorative sewing. I really like sort of playing around with stuff and just doing what feels right for the journal at that time. I don't have like, well, at least I don't think I have like a set way of sewing, but then I get people always telling me, oh, I love your sewing, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm always so taken aback by that because I really am not a sewer at all. But yeah, that is it in the cutest. It is the cutest. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. I hope it was somewhat easy and not too hard to understand. And I'd love to see what you guys make, or if you try this tutorial. You can find me at Gypsy Rose Papery on Instagram. Tag me so that I can see. I love to see your projects. And I think that's going to wrap it up for me. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!